And today, I just want to focus on it. We're going to be talking community numbers the whole seminar. So what I want to focus on is Calgary-wide numbers. We're looking here at a graph of total sales and, let me just let someone in, total sales and total inventory levels in Calgary. And you can see the inventory level, the blue bars there, it really jumped. Last February, it started to go up, and inventory started to go up and up and up. I mean, that coincided with higher interest rates, trade uncertainty, things like that. But you can also look at the green bars, the sales, they've been dropping since about May. That's really the regular cycle. Sales always increase up to, mid-spring, early summer, and then they start to fall a little bit until Christmas. After the Christmas season, they start to turn up again. That's the traditional sales cycle in Calgary. But what we're seeing is that these sales levels are starting to go down quite a bit. And we attribute that to the economic situation in Calgary or in Canada right now, plus the trade uncertainty with the States. Now, when we get a resolution to that, we don't know when it's going to be. I mean, knowing the Americans, it could happen in a month, it could happen in 6 months. We may have to wait out the whole Trump term. So it might be 3 years from now before we get out of this uncertainty. But regardless of that uncertainty, what we see this as is a great opportunity for real estate investors. When you see inventory start to go up, the amount of sales start to go down, that creates panic in the sellers. And then they start to drop their prices. And that makes a great opportunity for real estate investors to jump into the market and pick up those prime properties at premium prices.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we're getting better quality properties in this market. Only 6 months ago, we were in multiple offers and people were overpaying for properties. Now prices have come way down, and we're very, very good at telling people where to buy and where not to buy. The new communities are really struggling. There's too much inventory being built. So prices are going to be forced downwards. And what you'll see or continue to see is developers throwing in, we've seen the other day, a developer throwing in a free basement suite. I mean, a free basement suite is $65,000 minimum, right? And so you're going to see developers throw in these things. And what that does is it lowers the prices for everybody else. We were just looking, Tim, at a building called the Aris, which is down in the East Village.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're selling right now for lower than build cost prices, which is crazy. You know what? When you start to see that, it means the new product, we've been saying it all along, you have to be careful what you're buying. We would only be buying a property like that for our clients if they were moving into it. That is the only reason. You're subject to inventory levels, which we all know, supply and demand affects prices. It's as simple as that. So once you understand that as an investor, you know exactly where to go buy. And there are some beauty communities, which we're going to go over in tonight's session.
Yeah, and one quick thing about the demand for a property like those condos in the RS building, you got to think of the East Village. It's sort of a little separate from downtown, and it's very close to the drop-in center. So the crime level on the streets around there is quite a bit higher than neighboring areas. So if you're buying that into that building for a rental property, not only are you competing with separate buildings that are purpose-built rentals in the East Village, you have to deal with that type of social situation. So we would much rather put you into an environment like Lower Mount Royal or Marda Loop, things like that, Bridgeland, places, Kensington, places where there'll be a lot more demand and the tenants will feel a lot safer. But we'll get into that once we get into our community comparisons later on. So the second part of the market update is looking at the price ranges over the years. And this graph goes back to 2022. And the two things I want to key in on, if you look at the blue bars, that is the sales of properties under 300,000. Now in 2022, that was the highest amount of sales, sales volume was in that price range, below 300,000. Yeah. And you can see that all the way up until now, that number or that percentage of sales is dropped every year since 2022. So now this is a dual factor here. It's partly because prices have risen so high, there's less inventory under 300,000, and partly because the qualifications and the income level to get that, we don't have as much population getting that. So you're seeing those lower price range properties, and the amount of sales is dropping. And on the flip side of that, the higher sale price of inventory, that's the red bar, so that's the highest priced properties in Calgary. They went up since from 2022 to 2020. Anyways, they went up from 2022 to 2025, and now you're starting to see them go down. So what we're seeing is that inventory of properties over $1 million, people were buying them up until the economy started to change. And now you're seeing the level of sales go down in those properties, but it's still a higher percentage than the $300,000 range. So what we're seeing is a shift in the product that is starting to sell in Calgary. We're selling less lower priced properties and more higher priced properties. So I hope that made sense. If it didn't make sense, just give us a shout. I'll be able to explain that more. But it's interesting to see the overall volume drops as well from 2022 to 2025. So we're not just seeing this in this year, the sales volume dropping, it's been steadily dropping since 2022. And that's another thing we want to look at as investors, because if less properties are selling, that means prices are going to soften all across the board. And right now we're seeing that. We still see an average price increase of about 4% year to date in the average price in Calgary, but it's starting to slip. And we're hoping it doesn't go in the negative, but it just might. But that's good for buyers, not so good for sellers.
Yeah, and just for everybody out there, I want to tell you, if you drive around, I know beside us, we're on 8th Street near 17th Ave downtown, Southwest. There's 2 buildings that are just coming down right beside us. And if you're driving around, I know another corner, Tim, is 14th and 17th Ave. They just took out that old building there on the corner there. We haven't seen this much action for years.
Yeah, and there's 3 other buildings on 11th.
Yeah, 11th is
heading
crazy.
Towards the Stampede grounds, where they've taken 3 buildings down.
Yeah, whatever you do, don't drive down 11th for a couple of years, because there's just every second block there's something going on. So the developers know something, and what we feel here is that Calgary is a very, very good place to live. I mean, Tim, I just flew in from Australia yesterday. I was down there for a week, and I couldn't stop raving about how good Calgary is, what Vancouver and Toronto are doing, how expensive it is. And we feel that the population growth is just going to continue here. And the developers are onto this, and they're already getting ready for it. So when you see major projects like what's happening right across the road from us happening, there's a lot of confidence out there, and we just can't wait to see. So with the market being soft the way it is, and the lower end prices not selling right now, it is a very good time for investors to